Hello, we are Group 1 and we will be presenting our topics intellectual property, freedom of expression, computer and internet crime. The first topic that we're going to discuss is intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Intellectual property is a broad categorical description for the set of intangible assets owned and legally protected by a company or an individual from outside use or implementation without consent. So from that understanding, we would first to identify what is an intangible asset. Basically, this is a non-physical asset that a company or person owns. Then, IP belongs to the person who created or coined the idea in terms of processing the initial output. Basically, they would then decide on who, where, and how would others be able to profit from their own personal IP. Why is intellectual property important? Whether you're a startup or a family business that has been trading for generations, recognizing and protecting your intellectual property or IP is critical to growth, protecting what's yours, and maintaining a good reputation. Basically, this just explains that in terms of creating an own idea or a design, for example, in order to protect its integrity and to identify that it is your own creation, intellectual property establishes this and protects one's intellectual property. Benefits of protecting IP. IP is about protecting the time, money, and effort you put into your business. By taking even some basic steps, you can protect what's yours, translate your hard work and ingenuity into profitable returns, set yourself up for growth or market expansion, keep your competitors away, ensure you are not infringing on others' rights, prevent employees from helping your competitors, attract investors, and lastly, to promote your business to your investors, licensees, or even potential buyers. So basically, the benefits of protecting IP summarizes that once an individual has this intellectual property or this intangible asset as discussed earlier, they would then protect this certain idea that they have created in order for others or for example competitors not to easily copy your design ideas and gain profit from your IP or ideas.
So next is intellectual property examples. Examples of intellectual property are patents, domain names, industrial design, confidential information, inventions. Next is moral rights, database rights, works of authorship, service marks, logos, and trademarks, design rights, business or trade names, commercial secrets, and lastly is computer software.
For the next section, I will be talking about copyright infringement. So, what is copyright? Copyright allows authors, musicians, artists, and many more to make money off of their labor. It prevents others from taking their work for free, and it also prevents people from altering the work without permission. So, the rights granted enables the copyright owner to control the use of his work in a number of ways and to receive remuneration. Now, what is covered by copyright? So, first are literacy works, like To Kill a Mockingbird and other published articles. Next are film works, like The Matrix and Lights Out. And then we have dramatic works, like choreographies in ballet and screenplays. And then we also have musical works, like K pop and OPM. Sound recording of journalists and artists, like Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran. And finally, artistic works, like drawings, paintings, and web designs. How long does a copyright last? For literary and derivative works, it lasts during the lifetime of the author, plus 50 years after the author's death. For films and sound recordings, it lasts for 50 years. For typographical arrangements of a published edition, it lasts for 25 years. And lastly, please take note that copyright protection always expires on December 31 of the last calendar year of protection. So, what constitutes copyright infringement? According to Philippine law, copyright infringement occurs when one of the copyright owner's exclusive economic or moral rights is violated. Specifically, copyright infringement occurs when 1. Selling, trade offering, or exposing for sale the article in question. 2. Distributing the article in question for the purpose of trade or for any other purpose to an extent that will prejudice the rights of the copyright owner in the work. And lastly, trade exhibit of the article in question in public. Now, after learning what causes copyright infringement, here are the penalties for it. Under Philippine law, copyright infringement is punishable by the following. First, imprisonment of between 1 to 3 years and a fine of between 50,000 to 150,000 pesos for the first offense. Second, imprisonment of 3 years and a day to 6 years plus a fine of between 150,000 to 500,000 pesos for the second offense. And third, imprisonment of 6 years and a day to 9 years plus a fine ranging from 500,000 to 1,500,000 pesos for the third and subsequent offenses.
So, trade secrets. Trade secrets is a practice or process of a company that's generally not known outside of the company. This gives companies a competitive advantage over its competitors with the information they have considered as trade secrets. These are often a product of continuous development and internal search. So here we can see that trade secrets are normally basically a unique idea or a recycled idea, but with better optimization to it, which people or the audience would really love. So, why is it important? Trade secrets. Well, trade secrets is basically very important and it's needed in every businesses so that you always have the edge over your competitors, and it also has an advantage that even a patent may not even offer. So there's that. So how do we know if this trade secret can be considered a trade secret? Firstly, the secret is actively protected. Secondly, it has economic value. Thirdly, it is not supposed to be publicly known. So, for the types of trade secrets, we have the first one, which is formula. This formula has their own secret formula, such as Coke or KFC with their secret sauce or secret spice. And fourth process is on how the process of the product is being cooked or made. For the design, there are cons for design, as there are some designs that are able to be reverse engineered, so people will be able to know these trade secrets. But onto the next one is methods. Methods are usually more of a calculation on how it improves the products over time so that it doesn't fall off in the economic value. So for tools, it's basically the workstation and equipments to have consistency on the productivity and continuous quality from the products being made. And for automation, well, everything is automated, therefore the consistency will not be gone and there's less flaws in the system. Patterns. It's just a reusable solution that you can just keep putting on your systems. Lastly, know-how. You filled in the gap or flaw of the product your rival competitor has, and of course, that is definitely a trade secret that you can have an advantage of your rival competitor.
What is a patent? A patent is the granting of a property right by sovereign authority to an inventor. By sovereign authority, we're usually referring to those of higher authority, such as the government. After a patent has been acknowledged or recognized, the inventor is then given exclusive rights for a period of time to the patented invention, design, and process. These exclusive rights include the ability to take legal action against anyone who creates or produces the patented design, invention, and so on. This prevents other people from copying it or using it in any way without their permission. Before you can apply for a patent, you must remember that it cannot be just an idea. You need to be able to explain the product in fine detail. How does it work? What are its features? And so on. Before applying for a patent, you must also remember that it must be new and unique. This means you have to research whether someone's already made that product or not. And if so, how is it different from your creation? Lastly, your product must be able to solve a problem or make things easier. There are three types of patents: utility, design, and plant. Utility patents are the most common patents, and they're for new and useful processes, machinery, and so on. For design patents, they are for new and original ornamental designs. Plant patents are for the creation, discovery, or invention of a new plant. How much does it cost to apply for a patent? The standard professional fee in total in the Philippines is $400. However, the price can depend on these following factors: the type of patent you're applying for, the status of the patent, whether it's provisional or non-provisional. Provisional patent is when you want to protect a new invention from being copied during the 12-month period before a formal patent application is filed. Lastly, other fees, such as the search fee, examination fee, or having a patent attorney, can also affect the final price. How long is the application period? It usually takes 2 to 3 years to apply for one patent. And how long does it last? For utility and plant patents, the patent, once acknowledged, can last up to 20 years. For design patents, it can last up to 15 years.
The second section of the presentation discusses about freedom of expression.
Good day, everyone. My name is Paolo BELMONTE, part of Group 1, Subgroup 2. And today I will give you a short overview about freedom of expression. But first, let's ask ourselves, what is freedom of expression? Well, freedom of expression is a right, or more specifically, it is a right to hold and express beliefs freely without intervention. Freedom of expression is one of the most important rights granted to anyone. It allows them to hold on opinions and beliefs, as well as freely express and receive those opinions without fear or consequence. Now, as I said earlier, expression is a right. In fact, it is a recognized and enforced right. The right to express freely is a universal one. It is a basic human right. In fact, it is even recognized by the United Nations under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, what's so important about freedom of expression is that it's very fundamental and essential for many other rights to be enabled, or in short, freedom of expression is an enabler of all other rights. This right is very fundamental in that it is foundational for all other rights. Expression envelops all aspects of the human aspect, and its limitation can also severely limit other rights as well. Rights such as the right to thought, the right to assembly, and the right to democracy are some examples where expression is important. Now that we know a little more about what freedom of expression is, let's ask ourselves now, how does freedom of expression work on the internet? But before we tackle that, let's see what the internet can provide or mean for the freedom of expression. The internet is the ultimate culmination of human expression, as many of you know. The internet has allowed humanity to connect with each other easier, faster, and more convenient than ever before. This also means that people are expressing their opinions and receiving them at a much higher frequency and at a much faster rate as well. Now, despite how important or even fundamental expression is to the internet, freedom of expression remains very contentious in the landscape of the internet. The easy access and anonymity the internet provides has shown people that would abuse their freedom of expression to violate the rights of others. But on the other hand, companies and governments may have limited this right too much to correct this issue. Regardless, new opportunities and challenges await for freedom of expression under the medium of the internet. The interconnectedness and omnipresence of the internet in today's society provides enormous potential for development of society. But these new opportunities also come with risks from these same aspects as well. That's all for my short overview about freedom of expression and what it means for the internet. For the few upcoming PowerPoint presentations, we will dive deeper into what the relationship is between freedom of expression and the internet. Thank you.
Now coming over to the restrictions on freedom of expression, what is restrictions on freedom of expression? Now it is recognizing that while people have the freedom to express themselves, it still comes with limitations. So there are contents that one cannot place, post, or write as they are made illegal, outlawed, or criminalized by the national law. A good example of this is child pornography. Many countries have child pornography laws that criminalize and imprison persons involved in such, like uploading such videos or even depicting children in such materials as written in our Republic Act number 9775. In this case, freedom of expression is restricted to protect the rights of the child. Now, as these restrictions are ruled by national law, one material or content might be banned or restricted in one nation but might not be so in another. In that other country, it might simply be called harmful but not illegal. An example of this in real life are auctions of Nazi memorabilia where it was banned in France but is legal in the United States. So why do we have them? Why do we have restrictions on the freedom of expressions? What is its importance? As listed, they are for the protection of national security, territorial integrity or public safety, prevention of disorder or crime, protection of health and morals, protection of the rights and reputations of other people, prevention of the disclosure of information received in confidence, and maintenance of the authority and impartiality of judges. So as can be seen, the freedom of expression of one person is to be in harmony with the freedom and rights of other people. Some of the examples of the restrictions on the freedom of expressions are, as said earlier, child pornography as outlawed by the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009, internet piracy as outlawed by the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, and even terrorism and extremism, which the country is exerting effort to counter, especially now with the increased use of the internet due to the pandemic, where people involved in such try to captivate online audiences to join them. Lastly, the criteria for restrictions or limitations of freedom of expression. The European Convention of Human Rights have detailed what would be the three bases for the restrictions. First is legality. It must be prescribed by law. Second is legitimacy. It needs to be pursuing a legitimate aim. And third is necessity. It must be necessary in a democratic society. Meaning to say, to impose a restriction or limitation on a content or material, it needs to be in violation of other laws in place, like those listed in slides before, and that the restriction to be placed is because of a pressing social need that must be addressed. Of course, when restricting freedom of expression, the least restrictive way is to be chosen.
Use of freedom of expression in the internet. With freedom of expression now being applied with the use of the internet, it allowed people to connect all around the world to convey information, ideas, and other types of expression. It is a fast and low-cost approach to reach a huge number of several people in a short period of time. Unlike the use of a face-to-face approach, it has limitations when it comes to having a conversation to several people, while it also has a slower sharing of ideas, opinions, or discussions. With the internet, it has a faster approach because you can connect to people intangibly online, while it also has a faster way of having sharing of ideas, opinions, and discussions. And this is why the internet allows people to express themselves more freely by giving them new ways to share and find information. How is freedom of expression used in the internet? Well, first, freedom of expression can be used in the internet with the use of online services. These are services that people are able to express themselves online with the use of social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, etc. Online communication allows for the global interchange of news, ideas, opinions, rumors, and information. The internet is an ideal communication medium because of its wide usage and accessibility. It allows people to be open in discussions and can also be used as a form of anonymity. This is because with social platforms, it allows you to be either anonymous or you can allow yourself to be known of other people, knowing that what your opinions are or what you plan, what you discuss in the social media platforms. This allows people to access to knowledge as well as other people's thoughts and expressions or opinions in certain views like politics, religion, economy, etc. Freedom of expression can also be used as a means of freedom of access. Open access to the networks is essential for freedom of expression. It allows people to gain access to knowledge while also allowing them to design and build new communication technologies. With online service providers granting people to access online content, the flow of information is broadly accessible. It is mostly open to the public, permitting unrestricted sharing of ideas, whether vocally or in writing, by any method of communication. Freedom of expression in the internet is measured on how people can access their own opinions or expressions online. Combine this with having an anonymous profile online and faster connection with other people. It is shown on how much freedom can have in terms of access. Although certain online content under corporate responsibility, if said content is under the respect of human rights and regulations. This is to ensure to prohibit certain forms of information and behavior that may be illegal or inappropriate. This is related to the next part in terms of limitations of freedom of expression, since certain laws or rights needs to be followed in order to avoid inappropriate discussions. Lastly, freedom of expression in the internet is used based in accordance to law. While people have the right to express themselves, they also have a duty to act responsibly and respect the rights of others. Expressions that encourage violent action is against the law. People are free to create, reuse, and share content as long as it is according to the right to intellectual property and copyright. This includes important rights such as the First Amendment and the Article 3 Bill of Rights, which is the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. With these rights, it allows people to have protective right of their freedom of expression, especially against interference of authorities in having a right of privacy.
So, what are the pros and cons of freedom of expression? Freedom of expression promotes the free exchange of ideas. When a society operates in an environment where everyone has the right to free speech, there is a greater exchange of ideas. It becomes nearly impossible for those in power to suppress truths that they do not want to be exposed. This process allows for progress because people can learn from one another's experiences and perspectives without being concerned about the dogma of a big brother element in society, whether corporate or government-based. Freedom of expression also advances knowledge for a society.
When you have the opportunity to ask questions or share perspectives, it opens up more learning opportunities in society. This right makes it easier for anyone to make a new discovery, suggest ideas, or freely exchange information without fear of political repercussions. So now moving on to the cons of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression can spread false information. The rise of the internet has made it easier for individuals to spread false information and outright lies, while pretending that this data is true. Freedom of expression can also create a mob mentality. When one person expresses an opinion that others find credible, a mob mentality develops on both sides of the equation. When this happens, it can quickly destroy a person's livelihood.
For our next topic on freedom of expression, why is freedom of expression important? Our freedom of expression protects our dignity and integrity as human beings, and it is vital for our society as a whole. When we criticize and question authority, we are challenging a system that might not benefit us or even harm us. Our freedom of expression is not only limited to criticisms and opinions too. It is how we present ourselves as well, what our alignments are, our interests and dislikes, our preferred school of thoughts, and etc. Our opinions and beliefs show us who we are and what our morals and standings are. When authoritarians and partisans take away our right to express, they take away our right to self-determination as well, and that itself is dangerous. As a society, our expression towards a harmful system is an act of holding one accountable. When we hold each other accountable for how our actions harm the lives of many, we are showing that we care.
The third topic to be discussed is computer and internet crime.
So what are computer and internet crimes? Also referred to as computer crime or internet crime, cybercrime is the use of a computer or the use of the internet to further illegal agenda. This has grown in importance as the computer has become central to commerce, entertainment, and government. Examples of cybercrime include committing fraud, trafficking in child pornography and intellectual property, stealing identities, and violating privacy. To better understand what computer and internet crimes are, here we have the definition of cybercrime and traditional criminal activity. So cybercrime is a crime that is committed using the means of the internet and technology in general, while traditional criminal activity is a crime that has been committed using manual ways without significant technological aid. So simply put, cybercrime, especially involving the internet, represents an extension of existing criminal behavior alongside some novel illegal activities. Now, as the number of internet users around the world increases, here we have an overview of cybercrime cases investigated here in the country. First, we have online libel, followed by online scam, next identity theft, followed by threat, hacking, and ATM fraud. These cybercrime cases have been on the rise for the past 6 years. To combat such issues, we have the Republic Act number 10175 or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Now this act addresses crimes committed against and through computer systems. So this serves as the main cybercrime prevention act here in the Philippines. With that said, we will now further dive into the different cybercrimes present around the world and define how prominent they are within the technological community.
Cyber extortion. What is cyber extortion? Cyber extortion is a cybercrime in which attackers retrieve your personal or financial data and threaten to cause you damages if you fail to meet their ransom demand. If they are threatening you with any information, there is a high chance that you don't want that information exposed or destroyed, so they take advantage of your fear. So when the attackers make financial demands, the amount they demand from you is likely proportional to the black market value of your data. If you refuse to cooperate with them, they can sell it to the highest bidder. The majority of cyber extortion isn't targeted at a particular organization or individual. Attackers target attackers target several people with the hope that one or two of their targets will take the bait. So in some cases, attackers focus on a particular organization or individual. Here, they are more intentional in their tactics to make their targets fall prey. Ransomware is a type of malware used by attackers to infect your network, encrypt the files on it, and block you out. Attackers take possession of your system, leaving you at their mercy. Encrypted in email attachments, ads, and download links. Your device becomes infected once you click the file. Then you'll find a message encrypted on the file, stating the ransom amount that you have to pay before getting the decryption key. Being a victim of a ransomware attack puts you in a difficult situation. First, there is a chance that your files can be completely deleted. If you choose to pay the ransom, there is no guarantee that the attackers will keep to their word of restoring your files to you. Even if they did, they might see you as easy prey and launch more attacks on you to get you up to the pay. Cyber blackmail is a kind of blackmail that happens in cyberspace. The attacker breaks into your networks to retrieve your personally identifiable information of your intellectual data or customers and threaten to publish the data if you refuse to pay the ransom. Cyber blackmail jeopardizes the reputation of your organization. Having the confidential data of your customers released to the public is a disaster. You might be forced to give in to the attacker's demands to protect your business. Before you pay the ransom, you need to be sure that the attackers truly have your data. In some cases, they might be using human psychology and social engineering to trick you into believing that they have your data. Distributed denial of service attack. So, it is the use of botnets to flood a website with traffic to a point where the server is overwhelmed and shut down. If your website is an integral part of your business and the attacker succeeds in taking it down, you might want to give it into their demands. So, the use of ransom DDoS in cyber extortion is growing in popularity as more businesses drive sales and engagement on their websites. They are more inclined to pay the ransom to have their websites operational again. So in some cases, attackers use DDoS as a scare tactic. They threaten to take down of your website if you don't pay a ransom, unless the attacker has taken down your website. You shouldn't be quick to give in to their demands as they may not have be able to execute their threats. How to prevent cyber extortion? 1. Adopt a patch management system. You must examine your network regularly for any loopholes that may exist and implement security patches to close them up. You can do this by having an effective patch management system on the ground. Number 2. Implement a strong password policy. Change all default passwords and ensure that the passwords adopted are complex. Don't use a single password for multiple accounts and change the password regularly. Number 3. Build your employees' awareness of cybersecurity. You must train your team members on a safe browsing practices. They should be able to identify phishing, indicators of infection, and online scans. Number 4. Back up your data. You must back up all sensitive data ahead of time. So doing this will save you a lot of stress and money and also downtime in the event of a cyber attack. The last one is the adopt a complete security approach. Proactive security helps you stay ahead of attackers by identifying and preventing threats before they occur, while reactive security puts up a defense against threats that are detected in your network.
Intellectual property theft. What is intellectual property theft? Intellectual property theft, or IP theft, involves robbing people or companies of their ideas, inventions, and creative expressions, known as intellectual property, which can include everything from trade secrets and proprietary products and parts to movie, music, and software. Common scenarios of IP theft. 1. Hacking. Cybercriminals can gain unauthorized access to an organization's sensitive data and intellectual property using various phishing techniques. For instance, attackers can use keyloggers, malicious software that captures data as users type into a system, or they can inject man-in-the-browser malware into a browser to view and capture everything the user enters or sees on a web page or in an application. Number 2. Privilege abuse. Employees and subcontractors might exploit their access to an organization's sensitive data and intellectual property to steal it with an intent to sell it to the competitors or use it to start their own businesses. The higher the level of user access rights, the higher the risk of IP theft. So, you always need to keep an eye on privileged users and third parties. Lastly, number 3, human errors. Data breaches that occur because of employees are not always caused by malicious intent. Often, employees make dangerous mistakes due to carelessness, lack of cybersecurity awareness, or fatigue. And once a data breach appears, it may expose various types of confidential information, including intellectual property. Best ways to prevent IP theft. 1. Identify your IP. Everyone in an organization can work to protect IP if they understand what exactly needs to be protected and from who. Number 2. Locate your IP. If you don't know where your IP resides, you can't protect it by putting proper policies and procedures into place. Look beyond core IT systems and processes such as printers, copiers, scanners, and fax machines. Number 3. Conduct a risk and cost-benefit analysis. Outline all of your organization's assets to determine what IP loss would cause the most harm and which of those assets are most at risk of being stolen. By evaluating these two factors together, organizations can prioritize their IP and objectively identify where to spread their protective efforts and capital. Number 4. Label your most valuable asset. Placing a banner or label on any information that's confidential or proprietary is critical. Number 5. Educate employees. Humans are often the weakest link in the security chain. Prioritize educating all employees so they fully comprehend how they can expose IP even unintentionally. In particular cases, make sure they understand the risks of accidental IP breaches as a result of using external email platforms, file sharing services, and collaboration tools. Lastly, number 6. Identify the security gaps. Thinking like an attacker is often the most productive way to protect IP as it can reveal hidden or unforeseen security gaps. For example, after assuming a hacker's viewpoint, perhaps it's discovered that additional security needs to be applied to traditionally overlooked components such as phone contacts, recycle bins, or conference room phones.
What exactly is internet fraud? This activity involves deception and tricks on the victim to gain money and information. We also refer to this as a cybercrime, and there are many ways to do it. There are many ways or methods in internet fraud. Firstly,
Good day everyone. I am discussing about account hacking or password trafficking. So, what is account hacking? A commonly used hacking definition is the act of compromising digital devices and networks through unauthorized access to an account or computer system. Hacking is not always a malicious act, but it is most commonly associated with illegal activity and data theft by cybercriminals. Hacking refers to the misuse of devices like computers, smartphones, tablets, and networks to cause damage or corrupt systems. gather information on users, and steal data, documents, or disrupt data-related activity. So, types of account hacking. There are many types of account hacking on the internet, but the most commonly used crimes by the hacker are the following. First is keylogger. Keyloggers are a type of monitoring software designed to record keystrokes made by a user. Criminals use keyloggers to steal personal or financial information such as banking details, which they can sell or use for profit. So second is cookie theft. Cookie theft, also known as the pass the cookie attack, is a session hijacking tactic that gives an attacker access to user accounts that have stored sessions cookies in the browser. It occurs when hackers steal the victim's session ID and spoof the person's cookie over the same network. So the third and the last one is viruses and Trojans. A Trojan is sometimes called a Trojan virus or Trojan horse virus, but that's a misnomer. Viruses can execute and replicate themselves. A Trojan cannot. A user has to execute Trojans. Even so, Trojan malware and Trojan virus are often used interchangeably. So the best ways to prevent getting hacked is first, use multi-factor authentication. Next is get a password manager. Next is learn how to spot phishing attack. Next is always update everything. And next is encrypt everything. And lastly, wipe your digital footprint. And that's all for the account hacking discussion. Thank you.
Identity theft. Identity theft is the method of using another identity by personal information, credit card information, and more, without the consent of the victim. The criminal can use your private credentials for their own benefits and use. Types of identity theft. Dumpster diving. Dumpster diving is looking for treasure in someone else's trash. Example, searching for paperwork like slips or bills in your trash so that they could retrieve valuable information from that. Scheming. It is a tactic to steal valuable information like credit card details using the methods like photocopying receipts or using certain electronic instrument like skimmer. It is installed over the card slots of an ATM machine. Shoulder surfing. Shoulder surfing identity theft occurs when someone watches over your shoulder to nab valuable information such as passwords, ATM PIN. Fraud calling. It is a type of phishing that tricks consumers into disclosing their personal or financial data through fraud calls. How to prevent identity theft. Not to use digital identities on cybercafe. Ensure that your computer is well secured, having a good antivirus program, good firewall. Not using same passwords everywhere. Destroying of bills, ATM slips before throwing. Do not release your identity in untrusted websites. Regularly changing of passwords.
Phishing is also a form under social engineering. The attacker uses a medium to trick the victim into clicking a link and reveal his or her private credentials there. This involves a payment information and address and many more. We also have many forms of phishing such as smishing for SMS and vishing for voice calls. Malware is a software used for leaking private information and cause system disruption in PCs. It can be injected in personal or commercial devices. To protect yourself, never give your password or codes to anyone, and never click any links even if you know the source. Make sure that you have an antivirus to protect yourself against malwares. Be aware, be updated and knowledgeable, and spread awareness to everyone. Lastly, it is up to you to choose the method of surfing the net. As we move forward, so are the techniques and methods in internet fraud, but also in preventing them. In mail systems such as Outlook, Gmail, and more, they have an email filtering to flag them as a spam. This system is also improving every day. Identity theft can be prevented by noticing it as soon as earlier to notify your bank or any agencies. Install antivirus and always update it for maximized protection.
That would be the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you for watching.